Take a break from your busy schedule and join Harold Sala for Guidelines for Living.
Under Roman law, a person who had been condemned had no life of his own, no plans for the future, no personal agenda. He was the living dead. It was only a matter of time, as life was measured out by the hours until gruel was shoved under the prison door for the last time. With that understanding, something the Apostle Paul wrote years ago has powerful implications. To the Romans, he penned these words, "There is therefore now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus." The living dead suddenly become the dead living. "No condemnation," cries the prisoner. "Do you mean I'm free?" Can you not imagine the joy as a Roman jailer would respond, "Yes, you're free to live." Suddenly the past is gone. There is a future. That's what Paul says happens to those who are in Christ Jesus. In other words, those who have a relationship with God through His Son, Jesus Christ. As the ink began to dry on the parchment Paul was writing on, he developed the logic behind what the statement meant. First, he says that the law, not Roman law, but the law of Moses, no longer condemned a person. He told the Galatians that the law was like a mirror that showed you your terrible failure, but could do nothing to erase the failure. He contends that Christ's treatment at Calvary was payment of the debt that put you under condemnation, so there is freedom, complete and certain, from the demands of the law. Then he says that there is no condemnation from the flesh, your old nature. When someone comes to understand that freedom in Christ, psychiatrists and pharmacists are often put out of business. Take Sherman Williams, for example, a strapping large man who approached me with a roll of money in his hand. With a smile and a cheery voice, he said, "Here, this is the money I would have paid for shock treatment, but I no longer need it since I became a Christian." The law produced a conscience that constantly said, "You're not good enough. You're guilty, you're worthless," and we carry that cross in life. But Paul says there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. And that's when you have to tell your old nature, your old enemy of inferiority, "Get off my back." Your heart can shout, "I'm free, I'm free." One more thought. No condemnation means you are free from the downward tug of the past. Label it whatever it is. Paul says there is new life through the Spirit that lives within you. Here's how he put it. "And if the Spirit of Him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, He who raised Christ from the dead will give life to your mortal body through His Spirit who lives in you." Eugene Peterson explained it in these words. "It stands to reason, doesn't it, that if the alive and present God who raised Jesus from the dead moves in your life, He'll do the same thing in you that He did in Jesus, bringing you alive to Himself. When God lives and breathes in you, you are delivered from that dead life. If you've been living like a condemned prisoner, struggling with your past, your old nature, your failures, it's time to understand that if God sets you free, there is no need for you to stay in your prison. You've got a new life, one that produces love, joy, peace, and spiritual blessings. Friend, live it. Rejoice in it. Let your heart cry out, "I am free, I am free." It is the good news of the gospel that sets our hearts free. It's time to come alive. Be free in Christ Jesus.
You've just heard Dr. Harold Sala with Guidelines for Living. If you'd like to listen to the program again, download a copy, subscribe to our devotional, or view other resources, visit guidelines.org. We would like to hear from you too. You can email us at info@guidelines.org. Thanks for listening, and we invite you to join us again for the next edition of Guidelines.